Hi there everyone, how are you all? Hopefully, can you hear me? I think my microphone's working. I can see that a few of you have joined already. Let's just check that you can hear me first. Oh, brilliant. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Evelyn. Loud and clear. That's great. So I can start saying hi. Hi to you all. Hi, Beverly. Hi, Grandma Bonnie. Yes, there's a lot of products today, Grandma Bonnie. You're going to have to bear with me, I think, but I'll explain all in a second. Hi, Dawn. How are you? Oh, Lord, I'm on your big telly. Oh, well, at least you can't see me. You can only see pretty things on my desk. That's what we're all here to look at least. Hi, Jackie. Oh, hi, Jackie from the US. Lovely to have you here. Oh, hello, Helen. How's you? Hi, Mum. You can hear me too. That's very good. Oh, you like my green sweater? Yeah, I've got colour coordinated too. Look, I've even put my watch strap. So today has been inspired by my jumper and my watch. It actually works really well with the margarita. Look at that. I brightened myself up a bit today because it's not very bright outside. It's very windy. Taking a break from housework. Oh, very good, Dawn. I've taken a 3 or 4 day break from my housework. To be fair. Hi, Margaret. How are you? Hi, Valerie. Okay, let's jump in then. There's a few with us already. So thanks for joining me this afternoon. My second live of the week. I was with you on Tuesday where I made Tina's brilliant fish tank card. Now today, doing something completely different. You're right, Bonnie, that I've got an awful lot of products on my list today, and I think I will use all of them. There may be one set that I don't use, but I was asked to create a special 80th birthday card for somebody's uncle, and I was sort of thinking on my feet, and I thought I might as well do this on the live. So I know that they're not going to be watching at least, so I thought I'd sort of create it with you. Now I've mocked something up already, and I will be creating something pretty much similar to this, but I may just alter it a little bit. Now none of this is stuck down, so you can see that I've die cut the 80 there, and that's going to be my main focus. But if you if I pull this up here, what you can see is I've actually sort of shadow die cut the name, the guy's name into the card there. Let me just see if I can tilt that a little bit more so you can see. I can see it probably better than you can on the camera, so you can just see it there, Peter, in the background. Now, I did want that to be subtle. I like personalising people's cards. I like putting their names on, but I don't necessarily always like their name to be sort of bold and be the first thing that jump out of you, especially when it's a birthday card. So basically the stenciling on this I'm going to keep. I love the stenciling in the background. Excuse me. I have stamped the sentiment onto the card and I shall probably keep the happy, but I think I might change where the birthday goes. As the card stands like this, I like it, but you can't actually see the way that Peter's come up. So I'm going to adapt it as I make it with you. But it's sort of basically I'm going to keep the same colour scheme as we go along. Now, I'll just run through briefly what it is I'll be using. You can see the list on the side there. So I'm using the Leafy Flourish collection. So we have the layering stencils, the embossing folder and the die. I may use this, I may not. We'll see how we go. I thought I might want to actually emboss the letters to make them stand out a little bit more. So I see how we go with that. But that is a really lovely collection, particularly if you're making cards for the guys. Just change the colours up and it gives you a really, really nice background. So that's a really useful set to have. The next set that I want to use, and I think I might definitely use these to add some dimension around the outside of the card, is the foliage elements. Now you have the layering stencils for this, and you have the embossing folder with the dies. Now each of these pieces of foliage are separate items that can be die cut, and if I just turn this over, you will see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that right? We have 7 dies to cut out each of these particular foliage elements, and then you can emboss them. So that's a really nice way, again, to add detail and 3D elements to a guy's card. If you're not happy to put florals on, you can't go wrong with greenery. And then the sort of the working dies on this that sort of give the card its character. I'm using these 2 sets of dies, the large stitched numbers and the large stitched alphabets. I'm using the letters mainly, obviously, to spell out the name. But this set, I'm just using these little useful accessory dies that go along with the numbers, because the numbers that I'll be using are from the ULTI-MATE 3D set, because these are larger. And if I just pull out the 2 dies for you, or the corresponding numbers from the 2 dies, you'll see the difference. So this is the stitched set. And if I pull out the 2 numbers, so if I create 80 there, lovely little stitched dies, nothing wrong with that. But I'd say I wanted the number 2 be the one that stands out on this. And I'll put them on that side. So that's the stitched dies. Turn that around. Then this one here, we have the ULTI-MATE 3D dies. Now these are accessory dies to the rest of the ULTI-MATE collection, where you have embossing folders for these, but you also have layering stencils for these that add foliage and floral elements. Actually, I should have pulled them out for you, really, shouldn't I? But I didn't want to use those today. I purely just wanted to use the numbers themselves, but you can see the difference in the size there and the impact that they would have on the card. So I'm making a larger 8x8 square card today, so obviously these ones will be working best for that. Let me put those back because I'm not going to use them. But what I will be using from this, as I say, these are little accessory dies. So the one we want 80th. So instead of using large letter dies for that, we have these specific little ones, and that fits really nicely. So we can make that 80th stand quite proud on the front of the card. Okay, so I move them aside. Then also, as part of the Ultimate 3D collection, we have the floral foliage elements. Not easy to say. And again, these are just lovely little accessory elements that you can die cut. They all come on one die, so they are really, really tiny. Even actually probably not far off the size that they are on there. But they all come on one die, and it's, although these are tabbed and they can be snipped, it's probably best, because it is such a small die, you can see the size of it sort of, it's probably best just to keep it all intact and just die cut these elements from, you know, all together. And then you can keep them in the envelope, you can perhaps keep them in little plastic storage bags within there, and use them that way. I've already die cut them, and I've die cut them into different colours already. I've put them into a little bowl here just to keep myself organised. But I've created a couple of different colours. So these colours will coordinate with the cardstock that I've used on the card already. So I've got the greens and the yellows, got the grey and the sage green. So yeah, I've die cut them this set basically 4 times, and it gives you an awful lot of die cuts. I know I won't be using anywhere near all of them, that's for sure. I'll just be using a couple just to I think I want to use a couple just to accentuate the letters there. That's what my thinking is. So I put those away, and because these elements are really small, again I'll show you actually. Let me show you with the sage green ones. Some of these are so small. Excuse my really dry hands at the moment, but you can see just, actually let me show you something a bit more attractive on a nice white piece of card there. That looks nicer, doesn't it? So some of these are so small and so delicate that if I want to decorate each of the letters, I think what I might do, I'll show you what my thinking is, and then I'll finish the card a bit later on and then post the finished card into the group, because it's going to be one of those sort of labours of love, this card, I think, and it's going to take me a while and you really don't want to be sitting there watching me do all of that. But I'll just show you sort of how I go with that, and you'll get a good idea of where I'm going. And actually, looking at that now, just on a die cut rectangle, this is from a spare piece that I used from Tuesday's live. You could even just die cut them and just stick them randomly onto a background like that. You create a really lovely sort of dimensional background, particularly if you put them all in one colour. So that's another idea for you. That's another project for another day. And I'm good at going off on tangents, especially when I craft on my own. So I shall stick to the topic and just continue with this. So if that is all okay with you. You've not seen those before. You've not seen these element dies. Actually, what I'll do, I can just probably reach up. Bear with me. I'll show you the ultimate system that we've got actually. Let me find the numbers. Okay, here we are. So this is part of the ultimate set. There's a whole collection with each of the numbers from 0 to 9. So that'll be 10 numbers, won't it? And you can see here, these are the layering stencils. And I'll do these in a project another time, actually, because they're really fun to use, and I've not used them for a little while now. But the layering stencils enables you to stencil this really ornate number in the background when it has these little floral bouquets. What this die does, the floral foliage elements, it mirrors the foliage that we have on these items here. So if you wanted to make them 3D and add extra items, then you can die cut them and enhance what you have here. Now, of course, because we have the layering stencils, it does mean that Lisa's also given us the embossing folder and dies to cut out these numbers as well. So as I say, you have all the numbers ranging from 0 to 9, and you have the whole of the alphabet also. So it comes as a large set, but it's a really nice collection to have. And they, I can't remember if they're available individually, but I know that these items in particular are available individually. So if you didn't want to go for the layering stencils, but you just wanted to die cut your numbers and then embellish those in the way that I'm hoping to do with these letters, actually, I may even do the numbers, then you can die cut with those. So hopefully that's explained that a little bit. You can make really lovely personalised cards with those, and you can really go to town and make something really special with our Ultimate 3D collection. So that's everything I'm using. It is a lot. Now, I will also be using for the sentiments the newest sentiments that Lisa has brought out to us, and these are on the Lisa's Pick offer, which is on the front page of her website, and it's an offer available all week. It runs from Monday morning through to the following Sunday at midnight, and it's going to be something that's going to feature every week. So if you look on the front page of Lisa's website each Monday, you'll see the newest offer. This is the first one to kick it off, and the whole set of these sentiments, the newest sentiments, they are on offer and they are half price. So you are spending as much as you're saving. So I think it works out £46.96. It's half price. It's just for this week only, and you are getting every single word combination for any sentiment that you may ever want to make. So let me just remove that. Oh, there you go. So you can see them there. I have them all now. I didn't have them on Tuesday, but the postman came and right on time this morning and gave them all to me. I think I have one of the mini sentiments missing. I think there is another one of these smaller sets that says thanks and all the associated words with it. But you can see there's an awful lot going on. Lisa showed them to you when they were launched 5, 6, 7 weeks ago now. But say if you're looking to fill gaps, or if you're just looking to get all the sentiments that you may possibly want, actually, they are just stamps, no dies involved, but they are so easy to cut out. So if you're looking to add them to your collection, now is probably the best time to do it, and they are on offer until Sunday evening. So let's move those out of the way and let's get stenciling, shall we? So I'm going to bring in initially my Ultimate 2. So I probably will use the Ultimate 1 a little bit later on with the stamping platform. So I'm going to start stenciling the background that we have here, and I'm just going to move this aside because this is the card base that I'll use a little bit later. So I've cut myself this square. Now what I'm stenciling onto today is it's an off-white. It's cardstock. It's sort of a neutral grey. I mean, it can sort of, it's one of those colours that depending on what you pair it with, it sort of takes on a different hue. Can you see me okay? Yeah, we should be fine. Yes, so the cardstock takes on a different hue. So it just, I'm not going onto a white background, so it just means everything is an awful lot softer. So I'm going to get these stencils out, which are there. Now, initially, I'm going to stencil this background, and I'm going to make it quite subtle because obviously I want it to be a background, but we still want it to make an impact. And I am going back to my colours again. I just can't help myself. So I'll be using Woodland Moss, Cobblestones, Dolphin Grey, Pina Colada and Margarita. So they are very neutral colours, but I still think that they can make a huge impact and look really, really pretty. And I really must remind myself to get hold of the Woodland Moss re-inker, because the amount that I use that ink, I'm very soon going to be, it's going to run out, and then I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Is that bright enough for you? Okay, so to start with, I'm just going to put a really light layer of the Woodland Moss down first, because I want the background to be more grey than green, because there'd be a lot of green accents, so I don't want it to be sort of too overwhelming, and just keeping it sort of neutral in the background. I can do that by adding some grey. So I'm just going to add a very small amount of Woodland Moss as a base, and I'm just using the blending brush and just going over that really lightly and really quickly. There's no real technique going on there at all. Let me just see if I can brighten this up a little bit for you so you can see what I'm doing. There. Oh, there we are. Is that better? Yes, that looks better, doesn't it? So let me just take that stencil away for you, and you can see just how light I've gone with that. So you can just see the green tint, but say it's not really screaming the olive-ness that it usually has. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come in with the Dolphin Grey, and I'm going to go over that and just tone down a little bit that green that I added, which I suppose is a bit of a contradiction, but it works. It makes it ideal for the background. And again, I'm really not using very much ink at all at this stage, obviously because this is the first layer. You don't want to go too mad with the first layer, because that sets too much of a precedent for the other layers, and you've got no chance to build contrast and anything, you see. So go quite conservative, I would say, if you're stenciling for the first time. Go conservative and quite light-handed with your first layer. You can always go back and add more afterwards, but it's just a good starting point if you put a really light layer. So I'm just taking that off now, and you can just see it has just changed that tone slightly. So stencil number 2, I'm going to come in very lightly with the Dolphin Grey. Now, it's really interesting using these two greys. I've used Cobblestones, which is a grey tone, and the Dolphin Grey, again, a grey tone, but their background colour, and it's quite hard to describe, is they're both very different. I would say that Cobblestones is more grey, you've got more of a grey with the bluey tones, whereas the Dolphin Grey has got a lot more neutral tones, and I would say a lot more of a browny taupey sort of background tone, which is really useful to remember and understand when you come to choose your colours. But when I'm doing an overall neutral card like this, they both work together so well, and then using them side by side, you can actually see the difference in their tones. So I'm just adding that now, and you can see by adding that Dolphin Grey, and if I just lift that slightly, that won't move, you can just see that there is more of a taupey underlying colour to that Dolphin Grey. So the Dolphin Grey is here, these ones here, which is I think it's really, really pretty. It's a fabulous neutral, it really is. So stencil number 3, and what I will do, I'm going to come in with Cobblestones now. So this will add a slightly bluer element, and you'll see that in a second when I take the stencil away. Now, because I don't have any other blue elements going on in the card, I don't want this to be too bold. But this stencil layer number 3, only has a few apertures in it. So when I bring that up now, it's very subtle difference, and if you've got them at home, you'll see what I mean. But this is where the Cobblestones comes in, and it makes the Dolphin Grey look browner, but it adds a really nice contrast to your background. So what I'm going to do now is stencil number 4, and this starts putting the the link of all the twigs to actually join all these elements together. And I'm going to use the dolphin grey for that. And this time I will come in a little bit darker, because I think this is the link to actually tie all those leafy elements together, obviously all being on a twig. And I think by coming in a little bit darker for these elements, it works really, really well. I'm using one of the smaller blending brushes for this. That still works perfectly through these fine twig apertures here as well. And I use this stencil set quite a lot for creating backgrounds, actually. So quite often I will only stencil this collection and not emboss it. So you can see that's really come together now. Isn't it just so pretty? It's gorgeous, and it's so large. It easily covers a 6x6 piece of cardstock with a gorgeous background. It makes, well, it is an instant background. You really don't need to do much more to that. So I'm going to add the leaf details now, again with the dolphin grey, because I think this just works so well with the it's like a really dark sage green cardstock that I'm using with this today. Now when I add these leafy details, I don't go too heavy with the ink, because I don't want them to be too prominent. I like them to blend in with the background on the leaf. Again, that's just the way that I like it to look. But you can make them really striking by really going very dark, and just look just how pretty that is. Isn't that just gorgeous? I mean, there's nothing feminine about that at all with those colours, is there? But equally, I don't think it's boring. It gives you a lot of scope to accessorise with other colours and other cardstocks, I think. So now I've done that, I'm going to, yes, we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to take away the ultimate. And this is where we can start thinking about actually cutting into this design, which is a little bit scary, actually, I must admit. A little bit scary initially when you do this sort of thing. So to do this, I just placed where I might want the other details first. And I want the detailing of sort of the wording to be in amongst the foliage as well, so that the letters and the guy's name has some decoration on it as well. So have a little play, and it could be that you might want to put it this way round. You could always put it on a diagonal in the card, or possibly this way. You know, I think with this particular design, it can sit any way. Obviously, some of the florals, there is only one way it can go, but I think this one works in all different directions. So I'm going to go with it this way round, because I think we get the most of the stenciling on the letters this way round. So I'm going to die cut at the base there towards the lower half of that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a little faint pencil mark where I want my dies to line up, because that is going to help me reposition the dies. Because obviously with the name Peter, we have two E's in there, so we have to share and die cut this twice. And I'm just using a see-through ruler which has got divisions on here, so I know that I've got a straight line to the bottom. You can eyeball it if you're good at that. So I'm just going to line those up. Actually, I'm just going to make a pencil mark first. And you see that I've actually attached the letters together with a piece of washi tape, so I know that they are actually lined up as well. So I'm just going to create a little line there. That can be removed a little bit after I've die cut. So to start with, I'm going to die cut the first 3 letters. Now, fortunately, with Peter having 5 letters in it, we know that the central letter is going to be, we line that centrally into the card, that the whole word can fit centrally into this 6x6 piece of cardstock. So if we have that T right in the centre, and again I will eyeball that to make that right, I'm going to line it up along the bottom line there. I know that the letters are all going to stay put because I've attached them all together, and I'm going to run that through the die cutting machine. Now this can be a little bit scary when you do it for the first time, particularly if you're really happy with what you've stenciled, but honestly it is worth doing. So I'll run that through. Now we obviously want to keep all of the elements that come out of that, even the little areas that come out of these letters here. It's important to keep these. Normally you'd throw those little bits away, but this time we do need to keep them. So we've die cut that. Take that away. Now we need to take the E from that, obviously. Connect that back up with the R. Now, because of the way that these dies work, you can actually put them touching each other when you line them up, because the cutting edges will then be equally spaced apart. And because we have the stitch detail in there as well, we know that it gives them a really good spacing. So don't be frightened to sort of really line them up together. Obviously, you need to try and make sure that they don't overlap, because that will damage the dies when you put them through the machine. But just touching is fine. So I'm just going to push that letter out of there because that's stayed in. Okay. Now I can line those up again. Again, along that baseline where I drew that pencil line there. So I'm going to die cut those. And put that through. I know we always get stuck on making men's cards, don't we? And Lisa has a lot of florals in her collection, but there's also a lot of foliage stuff. And I think the foliage collections are ideal for men. We also have the geometric stencils and embossing folders as well for those that aren't necessarily into their gardening, you know, particularly some if you're making for younger members of your family or friends. But I really don't think you can go wrong with too much with a foliage for a guy. It gives you a chance to sort of create neutrals, or you can go really bold greens against a white background as well. I think that works really nicely too. So you can see what I've done there. We have the name. We have that die cut from our card blank, and I have spelt that right. Okay. That's always a worry. So we will begin to think about layering this onto our cardstock. So I'm only going to take that layer there at this stage. Now, what I can do, I can either replace these letters directly into their apertures and stick them in, and you'll be able to see, and that's a really subtle way to add personalisation. Or actually what I might do while that P is in there, I'm going to use that as a template to just replace those these details in here. This is where more fingers and thumbs. Where's my tweezers gone? I should use these ones. Oh, there they are. So I'm going to just take a little bit of glue. And while that P is in place, I'm just going to add that back into there. Remove that. Okay. And obviously I need to do the same with the R, so I'm going to do that now as well. Or maybe I should have stuck that down to start with as well. I'm rushing ahead of myself today. This really is just me playing today, to be honest with you. So I'm sort of thinking out loud as I'm doing it as well. There we are. So we have those elements in there like that. And while I'm doing this, I am going to glue this into as well, because I know I don't want that embossed in the background. Now, when you're attaching something that has a lot of apertures like this, you want to add as much adhesive sort of around these open areas as possible, just so as they don't gape. And if you've got one of the sort of glue applicators with a really fine nozzle, that would be a really nice way to add and control the glue that you're adding around those apertures, because although it's essential, you don't want to add too much that it then sort of leaks out and leaches into these apertures here. Okay. You could, if you wanted, depending on the colour of the layer that you've used underneath, you could just leave the name open like that. For me, this dark grey, perfect as a border around the outside, is just a little bit too dark for my liking on the front of the card. But if I used something a little bit more subtle underneath, then I think I absolutely would just leave those letter apertures open like that. And I think what I'll do now, this time, I think I will just 3D those letters back into place, because I think then they will stand out an awful lot more. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to add the 3D foam in. And that will make this name still subtle enough, but just stand out a little bit more like so. And I think that would work really, really well. So if I get the chaps up with you, where are they? There we are. So if I can add those in. Unfortunately, it was one of those things I couldn't prep, but I'll be as quick as I can. Oh. So I think that would look really nice in there. But I think what I'll do before I actually stick these down and remove the back in there, I do want to add a little bit of embellishment just under those letters. I think that will just make it really stand out even more. So we have that there. Okay. What I'm using, these square pads that are on a roll, I've just cut them in half, and they actually are a perfect size to fit within those letters there without showing on the outside. So although it might be easier to use a strip of foam, sort of thin foam, these work perfectly, and obviously you can just place them where you want to, like so. And now what I might do is, this is where I might cover those up from there. I shall do some stenciling again in a second. I'm just going to bring in all of those tiny little die cut elements here. And what I'm going to do Let me get the piece of card again. So I want to just pull out some of the larger elements because I'll be here forever and a day adding the smaller ones. So I'm going to add a couple of the real dark ones because that gives a really nice base. And I'm going to go more for the foliage ones as opposed to the floral elements. I think that would work really nicely. So I'm going to bring out just a couple of different elements from each of the colours. There's so many to choose from. I think it's just a case of just diving in and seeing what comes out as opposed to choosing, because as I say, I'll be there forever wondering what to use. And these ones are really nice as well. This will just line it up and just add a bit of fun to all the neutral colours, I think. So let's see what I've got. As I say, I probably won't do this on every single letter. I may just even do it on the first letter and add just a one or two on other letters to come. So I think I didn't do this on the first one, so I've got to figure out how I'm going to add these underneath. Now, some of these elements will catch under the 3D foam, I think, because they are so fine that it would be tricky to add some glue onto it as well. So this is where I'm all fingers and thumbs. So I'm going to, let me get something. Definitely go with this one, because that's really going to draw attention to the first letter in his name. And I will add a tiny bit of glue, actually, just a small amount. And I'm going to make sure that the stems of these leaves and everything just tucks into the aperture, so I know that that will be hidden by the letter when I add it on. Now, they are really fiddly, but really satisfying, and they add a huge amount of detail for something that's so small, and it can really, I think, be the make or break of what it is that you're making. And particularly if you do die cut them in quite a few, in some colours that add contrast. So bear with me. I don't know if this was the best idea to do on a live for you. Hopefully you enjoy seeing it come to light. It's quite interesting. Now, I'm not going to go too mad. I think less is more. Some people can do more is more, and they make it work fabulously. But when I try that, it looks like I've thrown everything in the kitchen sink at it, and I don't know, it never seems to work out quite how I want it to. So just by adding that P there, can you see just the detail that I've got there? And so it's really subtle, and hopefully it will come out better when I actually photograph it for you later on. But it's a really nice way to add detail. And I think what I might do, I can probably pick out just a couple of letters like this, can't I? So with this E, there's less room to embellish around the outside here, really, isn't there? So I'll take that as my cue and not put as much on. And I'm just going to see what I've got in this sage green colour. And just change up those colours a little bit. I might use, I do like these little leafy sprigs here. So I might use that there. And what have I got? This is where your tweezers are absolutely invaluable, I think. And I'm going to, just pick out a little one like that. As I say, I could be here forever and a day, so I won't go ahead and do it all, but you'll get the idea. But I can still go ahead and create the rest of the card and sort of finish this a little bit later, if you're in agreement with that. And I think what I'll do is add just a tiny little one there. It's a really nice way to add colour, actually, and even on a guy's card you can introduce red and pinks this way, I think, and that'll be totally acceptable. I'm going to add the E there. And the reason actually why I went for the florals as well is because the person who asked me to make this is actually grows her own flowers for her own floral business as well. So I'm hoping that she'll appreciate the sentiment and the thought behind that. So you can see actually the difference now. And that personalisation is actually going to stand out an awful lot more. How are we going? Oh, thanks for that, Dawn. Sorry, I know they're out of stock, but say I'm sure people may have this, some of them already. Right, I'm just thinking, what should I do? Should I carry on? I think what I'll do, I won't carry on because I can sort of dither with this. Oh, that's a nice one there, isn't it? I don't want to lose that. I think I'm going to use that there with the one of those. No, because I've used that colour there. I'll bring it in a yellow. Yeah, I'm going to use those two there. And then I shall continue with the rest of it. I didn't want to, I like that little shape actually. I didn't want to lose that as they go. And so I think you can embellish anything with these little sets. I know these little individual ones are available to buy individually, and you can use them to embellish any of your florals and any other little die cuts or stamps or stencils that you may already have. So I'm going to add that to there as well. Okay, now I will stop there because that will take up all my time, but you can see where I'm going with that. And you see I've got so much to play with here, and I will put those in little sort of Ziploc plastic bags a little bit later. So I've got the detail going on there. As you can see how that's coming together. Now I have the 80 that I can add on here, and I did wonder whether I should layer this on something or not, but I think I might just leave it as it is there. And I think that it would work 3D'd as well. As I've 3D'd the name, I think possibly this deserves to be 3D'd also. So I do have some smaller foam pads for this actually. They may be a little bit easier because some of these areas are just a little bit more, a little finer. Okay. So that would work. And then I can add this detail here as well. Okay, there we are. Let's take those off. So it's a quite fiddly card. I've actually been really quite brave this week on my lives, hasn't I? I've done a shaped card on Tuesday, which was very different for me to what I usually do. And then, oh, this one is quite different for me too. But it's good to get out of your comfort zone and do different things, isn't it, sometimes? And it is all crafting at the end of the day. And say this would probably be a much bigger project if you weren't all watching me. And I will finish this off properly a little bit later and then put the finished photograph into the group for you when I've just done all the finishing touches. And I think we're just with the TH that I'm going to add there, I'm just going to use glue and just add that directly onto the card itself. Now this is actually die cut from just some pearl cardstock that I had in my stash, actually in a nice pearlescent sage green colour, so I think that worked really nicely with the rest of the colour combinations there. So what I need to do is think about putting this onto the background here. Now, as I said earlier, I also thought about using these foliage elements here, and I've already stenciled and die cut and embossed these. So these can add some more dimension to the card. Now, just trying to think where I can add those. Now, I need to be aware that the letters are going to go over the top there. So I'm just going to place them there just so as I know where I am with the elements. And I think what I might do, to be fair, at this stage, I think I might just stencil onto this background. Now, I did say that this was going to be work in progress, and so a lot of this now is my thought process and how I can actually bring this card together. So I'm going to bring in my ULTI-MATE, and I'm just going to stencil directly onto the background now. So these foliage elements have 3 stencils in the pack, and I really like the ivy trail that's there, and I think that will work really nicely as a background. So the ivy trail is here, and I would like to have that in this top corner of the piece there. So I'm going to have that like so. I'm just going to add the rest of the stencils just to make sure that I have that lined up. Now, what I can do, this would be the ideal time to use the tacky mat. I'm bringing my tacky mat out. I can add that because I have the punch holes that's come onto the thing. I take off my protective layer, keep that, so I put that back into the packaging, because that can be easily lost, but it's ideal to keep. So again, I'm thinking out loud with this. I want to have that ivy spray in that top corner, so I'm going to put the stencils can go there. They can come off the pegs just a little bit, but I'm going to put my cardstock just there. So the cardstock is going to be held in place. Although the stencil is only on 3 of the pegs, the tacky mat is going to hold it enough at this top area here for me to stencil happily here. So I'm going to use the dolphin grey, and I'm going to use exactly the same stenciling technique as I used for the background. So I'm going to keep it quite subtle. So I'm going to use the dolphin grey as the anchor for all the twigs there. So I'm going to take that away. Come in with stencil number 2. Replace it on 3 of the pegs as I did with the first one. And then the woodland moss. Come in gently with the larger brush there. So I'm going to use the ink that's already on the brush before I pick some more up, because I do want to keep that relatively subtle. So I'm going to use what's on my stencil from earlier and what's on my brush to create that. And then I can come in and just create a little bit of shading with my stencil brush, just towards the edge like so. Just add a little bit of shading so we've got a little bit of contrast of colour going on there, like that. Just on some of the areas, just so that it looks a little bit different. And then before I move that, I'm going to do exactly the same with the dolphin grey, because that'll just add a little bit of shading tool on the edge of the leaves there, like so. Okay, not too much. And then the last stencil, again, replace the last stencil. Make sure you put it on the same 3 pegs that it was on originally. And I'm going to use moss green this time, just to go into the background initially. So I'm going to come in quite heavy with that. So we know that's going to be layered tone on tone. And again, just before I move that, I'm just coming onto some of the areas with a little bit of dolphin grey as well. I'm not going to worry too much about making sure where I put it. I'll just put it randomly on that stencil. And then take that away. And that'd be a really nice embellishment for me to add that onto there. And before I move, how are we doing for time? Apologies for keeping you. So it's a very different way of creating for me this week. So I'm going to come in with one of the other leafier parts of the stencil. Again, I'm going to use the properties of the tacky matte because I want to add some detail into this bottom corner. So therefore the holes won't reach onto the pegs. But if I use the tacky matte to anchor my cardstock and also then use the grid of the tacky matte to make sure that I line up the stencil in the right place, I still have all the same confidence in using the ULTI-MATE and know that my stencils are going to line up. So again, I'm going to come in with the woodland moss. This part of the stencil is just a little bit busier with design. So if I use my stencil brush, then I've got a lot more control of where I'm putting my ink, like so. So again, I'm keeping it quite subtle because of the tone of the card. Come in with a little bit of dolphin grey because that makes a really nice shading colour on top of woodland moss. So that was stencil number 2. Actually, I missed out stencil number 1 this time around, but I shall go back and do that in a second. I can put the details of the leaves in. Because again, I'm using the grid to line up where the stencil sits, so I know that all areas of the design will line up. So again, just a little bit of dolphin grey, just keeping that quite subtle in the background. And stencil number 1. I think a lot of this part of the design is actually going to be hidden, but I'll put it in anyway. Okay, so we have a little bit of design feature down the bottom there, which works, I think. Yeah, that works just enough for me. So I'm going to take that away. So this is the layer that we're going to have added on. Remember that we're going to have our letters sitting in there as well at this stage. What I will do actually, before I put the card together, I will perhaps go around and just add a little bit more, so I've got a little bit more showing around the background. But I'll show you. Where's the base of the card? There it is. I'll start putting this on the base. I say it's an 8x8 square card. I've used the sage green around the outside, and then I've layered a darker grey to make this larger layer pop, like that. Now we do need a sentiment, of course, and I did say that I would use the mini sentiments that we have on Lisa's pick of the week. So I'm using the birthday set, which is here, and I've stamped the birthday and I've fussy cut that out already. So what I will do, I will add that onto the card like so. Let's pop those in there. Remember, I'll have the floral elements sitting underneath. So I'll have the birthday sitting there, and I will 3D that on top of there. But I will stamp the happy to go directly onto the card, and I think that just takes away the fussiness from the rest of the card. We have a lot of 3D elements going on there, so I don't need to add another 3D element there, I don't think. But if we stamp that in black, that will give a really nice pop. So I'm going to, this one is the happy. So if I bring that one in there, this lovely script sentiment. And I am going to stamp that directly onto the card. Now, actually, just receiving these stamps today, I know when we've said in the past that when you take your stamps off the plastic carrier sheets here to peel them away really carefully, but what I noticed with these sentiments today and peeling these stamps for the first time off the carrier sheets, they come away a lot quicker and a lot easier. So if that's something that you've been worried about in the past, then say have a bit, you know, sort of take it from me that these stamps come away a lot easier than other stamps we've had in the past, actually. So it really does make them sort of nice and easy just to get stamping with straight away. Now I am doing this freehand. I've turned this around and I'm going to stamp happy. I'm confident, famous last words. Oh no, it's not, that the stamp is going to stamp on there, but I think I may have just overestimated the height of the letters there. But let's see how we go. I should have put that on a smaller, or just shifted that over on the, there we are. I thought that the height of the stamping block was going to be affected by the height of the 3D letters there, but it all worked out okay. So I'm happy with that sitting there. I'm going to add that way round, isn't it? There we are. So I'm going to finish this off completely and then photograph it and put it into the group later, but you can just see how this concept has come together entirely. And then what I can do, I can add the birthday, and I might even add that in there. I might add it down the bottom. I think it might actually work quite nicely there, to be honest. And I've got the personalisation in, I've got the 80th birthday in, and that works really well. And it's quite subtle. I think it's really nice personalised card for a guy. And to say that personalisation with a name actually stands out an awful lot more than the way that I've done that there. So thank you for sticking with me today. I hope you sort of enjoyed my thought process there. That was really sort of, I had an idea and I just sort of wanted to go with it. But these things can take on a bit of an organic feel, can't they? And have a mind of their own. But say it's come together and looked the way that I wanted it to look. And I'm really happy with those colours. So hopefully you enjoyed that and sort of came along with me on that little journey. It's given you some ideas for guys' cards as well, and say giving you a bit of an idea into my thought process of how I make cards. Even when I am crafting alone, I do generally tend to chat to myself a little bit as well. I'm one of these people, I don't listen to music or watch telly generally when I'm crafting. I get sort of really do get lost into what I'm creating. Oh, hi Peg, you're from Indiana. Oh, thank you. You enjoyed that too. It's lovely to have you. Actually, it's a new name. I don't recall having you here with me before, so it's lovely to have you join us. I shall leave it with you there today so I can go and finish this off. Thanks so much for joining me this week. I've really enjoyed both of the projects I've made. I'm sure if Lisa's back with us tomorrow, Dawn will answer that one for you. I know she had a debut on HSN, didn't she, which went so quick. And it's such a far show, so different to the way that we have our shows on Create and Craft here, but it was a great experience for her, and it's nice to see that people love the products over there too. But I don't know if she'll be with you tomorrow for the Friday night live, but I guess there'll be an announcement into the group as well. So enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and I shall see you again next week. Take care.